It's bad, but I'm guessing this is one off the hill. It's really flooding bad. Coming down off that hill.
Somebody sent you that video?
He said it's
I
raining.
hear you.
It's raining. We're going to go video.
Wow. Where's that coming from? The hillside? It's nasty. Gee. Oh, but he does it. Oh, I know it. Okay, it's 6 p.m. We'll call the meeting to order and begin with a moment of silence. And if you would, we'll recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Edwards here.
Councilwoman Sherry Rogers. Here. Councilman Steve White. Councilwoman Debbie Gump. Councilman Herb Curtis. City Manager Nick Sainsbury.
Present.
City Attorney Ron Bailey.
Here.
Deputy Chief Cross. Deputy Fire Chief Talbot. Building Code Zoning Enforcement Officer Marty Lewis. Street Commissioner Mike Starrett. Sanitary Director Dee Evans.
Okay, you have the minutes in your packet from the regular and special sessions. If there's no additions or corrections, I'll entertain a motion to accept as distributed. Okay. It's been moved and second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
I
Opposed? Motion carries.
don't think these are on.
Okay,
I
and
don't
we
think they're on.
do have someone signed in on the visitor section. I think the first name is Paul. I'm sure I can't read your last name. Okay, did you want to come up to the?
Yes, what I want to talk about tonight is the traffic on State Street and on River Street. There's no signs and they go up through there like they're on a drag strip every day, every night, blaring their music, blowing their horns, just having a good old time. My wife walks out there. She just had 2 strokes, and it's a way for her to get herself back together. And I have to watch her like I'm watching a child because nobody watches her. And there's not a police officer up there that I've ever seen, except on emergency, than I have. And, you know, I would like something done at stop signs we have. Speed limit signs, none. We got 2nd Street, 25 mile an hour. There's no signs on State Street. There's no signs on River Street. It's just when you turn that corner off of River Street on the State Street, it's to the floor. I mean, I used to be that way, but I'm 76 years old now. I would like to, I've married her for 42 years. I'd like to keep it that way. But, you know, I would have liked to have something done. Because like she said, you can sit on my front porch and they don't care who you are. They were just like tonight, we had one school bus stop down there and the car got backed up. The guy on the motorcycle come down there and he went, instead of turning there at River Street, he went down the access road to try to beat the school bus. Well, he didn't make it. But that's what they do all the time. They even pass on that street, as small as it is, and it's not even 12 foot wide. And I know somebody's gonna die. And I don't want to see it. But if you guys can do anything, I'd appreciate it. Because, you know,
Nate, would you like to address?
I'm the city manager, Nate Stansberry. I'll speak with the police chief and the street commissioner. We'll see if we can put some speed limit signs up and run some extra patrols in that
yeah,
area.
because, you know, I talked to them and they said that that's the reason I'm here. They told me to come here. So I did.
Okay.
But, you know, it's just, we can't sleep at night because they come through and they have their music turned all the way up. Now they stopped the fire department from running there at night, volunteers, but they allow them to run their music as far up as they can.
Okay.
And we are only like.
And that's people playing music in their cars or driving by.
Right.
Okay. That's a tough thing to police in a sense.
I
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah.
But, you know, maybe once you get them started, they'll be all right. I don't mind music. I love music, but
Sure.
you know, not at 12 o'clock at night. Coming up
Understood.
there blaring it and you're trying to sleep.
We can make that a point of our patrols, right, Greg?
Because I'm getting old, and I like music, but if it's not at 12
Yep.
o'clock at night.
We appreciate you coming. Thank you.
I know that within the city limits, we've dealt with this before, and Brian has been kind enough to make us an ordinance for a speed limit sign. In fact, we're going to address that tonight. I appreciate that. If it's not posted, it's 25 miles an hour within the city limits, which is oftentimes too fast.
If it's not lined, it's only 15.
I did not know that. I
If
did
it's
not.
lined, it's 25. If it's not lined.
So we don't need an ordinance then for maybe State Street. Brian? Okay. Thank you.
I mean, the signs are always nice and people have no excuse. to know they're
Sure.
not right. I don't know what they would decide.
Yeah. An additional tool. Thank you. Mhm.
We have people out there with caves.
And we don't have very good sidewalks either.
Your streets are pretty tight, some of your streets 15, I think makes a perfect sense. There's all places 25 on, that's too bad. Yeah.
Okay, under boards and commissions, the next meeting of the cemetery board is Monday, October the 10th at 9 a.m. The Historic Landmarks Commission will meet on the 14th at 5 p.m. And Councilwoman Rogers has a report from the facade grant.
I'm really excited about this too. In your packet, you will see a report from Historic Landmarks. We're really excited about the projects. I do have these projects to pass down to you. These were the applicants here, Kim, that were successful in landing facade grant. So to just recap, the city invested $25,000 in our facade grant, and we greatly appreciate it. we are receiving right at $90,000 of improvements to our community through the facade grant. So I think that's a pretty good exchange. Also on that report, you'll see the total project improvement investment and the grant award. So the grant awards generally were $2,500, which was the maximum. But some of these projects, I'll just read real quickly, were gutters, downspouts, soffit and fascia, eaves replaced, wood rot replaced, concrete steps, brick walls repaired, deck and paver replacement, a roof replacement, painting original doors and windows. So people are preserving their historic places. A sidewalk project, an iron fence restoration and hard landscaping, and burying electrical under a sidewalk and pouring a new sidewalk. I know initially we had requested $50,000 of funding, and we received $25,000 worth of funding, and it was the hope and the belief, and I think you had mentioned that in the future that perhaps we would grant another $25,000 for another round of the facade grant in the spring. One more thing, because we have our facade grant in place, we are now a little more eligible to secure facade grants, and hopefully we'll land one and not have to use city money for this program. But I did want to extend our gratitude for allowing us to have the cycle of the facade grant. Do you guys have any questions?
Not our facade grant, but in order to be eligible to apply for facade grant funding, who does that come through?
I do not remember who we have so many grants going in and out there. I don't remember exactly. Do you remember, Nate, who it was that we applied last year? It was $100,000. I know that Wheeling got it.
What's
and
that pass-through agency? There's some kind of gentleman's name it goes with. Not Bunyan, but something like that.
yeah,
Remember, it's a pass
Paul
through.
Bruin.
Yeah.
yeah, that's
Okay,
it. That's
got
it.
Any other questions for Sherry? Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, the next meeting of the Planning Commission will be October the 11th at 6 p.m. Board of Parks and Recs, September 15th at 4 p.m. The Lewis County EDA, September 27th at 5. BZA, September 12th at 6. Code Appeals Board, September 21st at 6. Neighborhood Watch, September 13th at 6. And Solid Waste Authority, October the 18th. We do still have one position available on the Board of Zoning Appeals, plus an alternate. And the Weston Municipal Appeals Board has 3 vacancies. So next is the Sanitary Board report.
Good evening. I'll just highlight a couple things on the report that you have before you. On phase 2 project, one new thing that's happened since the last time I was before you was that we received notification that we did not receive the congressional earmark grant funding for this project. That part was new. Down at the plant this past month, we had a DEP plant inspection. That was an all-day inspection that Brock had. With DEP, we have yet to hear back from their report. That usually takes 2 or 3 weeks. But he did have that all-day inspection there. Nothing really was singled out with him. Everything's, I mean, I'm sure we're gonna hear something. They never give you a clean bill of health, and especially when you're Weston, but but I'm sure we'll get that report back sometime within the next week or 2. As far as the collection lines, the guys finished up the repair on Summit Street. And I believe they have at least finished up for the time being the repairs on the lines at the Shriner Building and also did some root removal that was kind of a spin-off on that project on North River. And we'll wait to see if that took care of the issue there at the Shriner Building as well. And Mike, you'll have to be some eyes and ears there as well to see if things, that took care of things or if they crop back up, and let me know if something else needs to be done there as well.
Hey, D, I called about a herbicide today, so I'll let you know if I hear anything about that as
Okay.
well. Yep.
Okay, yeah.
Yep.
On my list of things, just to highlight a couple, I've been working with Region 7 on our critical needs application for all the work that was done on Station 7. Most of that work was just under $200,000, so we're trying to get some critical needs funding for that so that we can take care of expenses that we had for that Station 7. Also been working with the accountant on our rate analysis to bring before you all hopefully next month. I'm working with Public Service Commission on a couple mainline extensions. One of them is on Lynn Avenue. The other one is out towards the Stonewall Jackson Memorial Hospital. And it's just for on Lynn Avenue, about 5 residents, and out towards the hospital, it's just for one particular resident. I'm working with Nate on some solar energy study for some of our pump stations to see if that could be a cost savings for us. And I think really that's the highlights of most of something that you all have questions about.
The grinder at Sharp Hospital, how's that working out?
Better. The guys went out and took a look at that, and so far so good on that.
Less calls up there?
Yes,
Okay.
definitely.
The earmark monies, there were 2 submitted, correct?
Yes.
And both of them failed.
No, I cannot say that. Just the first one.
The first one, which would be extension project.
Yes. No. This was for our, just for phase 2.
Okay.
Just for phase 2. Thank you.
The other one's still pending?
I haven't heard anything about that one at all.
I thought they both were yeah, I don't think they,
Yeah, Agnes gave an update.
Yeah.
I
I
haven't heard.
thought we had 2. I got confused. So
yeah.
we had others in.
Okay.
I don't think ours.
Well, we applied for the sludge phase 2, which got rejected, but that's what's been funded by AJGC. So that project's moving forward. The extension on Route 33, which was just the earmark application, it did not
I
get funded. Yeah.
Yeah, the IGDC did get it.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
So sludge is moving forward.
Okay. Thank you.
Mhm.
Any other questions for Dee?
Great, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Dee.
Okay, finance report.
All right, before we get to the fund transfers, there are 3 parts of the regular report that I want to give you. The first is you'll see that the profit and loss report is in your packet. There's nothing particularly outstanding to point out this month. Because of the way deadlines fall, I don't get to reconcile the bank statements before producing that report. So one thing that stood out to me in the bank statement was that we received another big drawdown from REAP for the vacant structures, a reimbursement for tearing down the bad houses. Marty handles all of his own grant paperwork and reimbursements on that. So I just get to be excited every time the money comes in. So I saw that we did get another one of those last month that I know is not going to be reflected in that P&L. The second part is after that, you will see annual reports from the policemen and firemen's pension funds. Real quick reminder and overview there, the Municipal Pension Oversight Board contracts with outside actuaries to review the status of those funds and determine A, if they're solvent, and B, if they're not solvent, what it will take to get them solvent. And then they provide a subsidy to help do that. I think on top is the fireman's pension report. So just a couple of highlights there in the middle of the page there under section 2. You see that last year we received a $47,000 subsidy from from the state. I think that pension is at about 88% funded. The actuaries have determined it's about 88% funded, which means we probably have about one more year of receiving a state subsidy before that pension fund is going to be totally solvent. And then the second report, the policeman's pension, you see that that receives no subsidy. I think that one's been solvent for a couple of years now. I think is at 118%. So the actuaries say that has been in really good shape, and it will stay in really good shape as long as we keep doing everything right. Another quick highlight from those, if you look at the third page from either of those reports, you would see that the policeman's pension investments were up 7.97% this year, and the fireman's pension investments were up 8.04% this year. For context, both were down between 10 and 11% the year prior. So we've not made up all the lost ground from investments in the economy sort of tanking in the last couple of years, but we're rebounding. So we're happy with 7%. We'll take it. And then the third part, and this is I have no particular commentary with this. I just thought that it would be helpful to look at. I laid this on the table this evening, titled Fiscal Year 2023 B&O Revenue Summary. Last month, there were some questions about B&O revenue, and so I thought it would be helpful if you saw a breakdown of where the B&O revenue comes from and how it impacts the greater budget. So just an example real quick, as you look across that, natural resources, gas, in Weston, our B&O rate is $6 per $100 gross revenue. The maximum rate you can have is $6. So in fiscal year 23, that generated nearly $62,000 in revenue, which was about 10% of all B&O revenues, which means it was about 2% of all revenues total. So I don't have any interpretive commentary to add onto that report. I just thought it would be something helpful for you to see and let you interpret it yourselves. Welcome. So any questions on those three things before I ask you for the fund transfer? All right. The report with the really small print, and I'm sorry about that, is okay. Can I ask you all to what do I need them to affirm receipt?
Yeah, I guess maybe we point to that.
Okay.
You make a motion that you receive the pension report. That it was reported, so we can report back.
Yep.
Indeed, we're presented with it.
Move to approve.
Okay, it's been moved in second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And then this report with the really small print, what that is that's my justification for why I'm going to ask you to move $1,900 from the general fund to the vacant structures fund. Last month, I think Councilman Curtis had some questions about when that comes in and how that comes in. So I thought it would be helpful going forward if I just provided you a breakdown when we're receiving those payments, who we're receiving them from. And so that's what that is. And so I'm going to ask you to approve moving $1,900 from the general fund to the vacant structures fund.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
A second.
Moved and second to move $1,900 from the general fund to the vacant structure fund. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. Did you have any other questions for me or anything else? Thank you.
Street department.
Your reports in your packet, other than I would like to three things, I'm sorry. One is we have installed approximately a little over 300 some feet and getting ready for the paving over in the city parking lot. We've getting ready to install the rest of that electric over there. So that way we can have our festivities over there and everything. So letting you know that's ready to go over there. The other thing is letting you know that, and Nate and I've discussed this. I got a truck. It's a GMC that's we got some bad body parts and we got some other parts going with it. So Nate and I are trying to figure out our best bet to try to save the truck. And I think that's what we're going to do for right now. And I know probably some of you have heard that, but I think we could still salvage that least a little bit more time on those trucks. But if any of you out there can figure out the way to get me a truck, please throw all that work to me and let me know. All right there. Okay. Okay. And then the other thing is we started today working down on the Simpson Run project with Mr. Montgomery. Other than that, that's all I have, unless you all have any questions. Yes, it will, Debbie. It will be RV pedestals, and everybody said, well, why are you putting in there so an RV person can back in? That's not what it's for. It is for vendors and stuff like that. So yes, it will. And they do have locks on them. You're welcome. I haven't discussed any more with that with our chief, Mr. Posey, about that. I know we've been moving some people around over there, and I think Mr. Posey's still on vacation, and we're getting ready to address something over there, something on that vicinity. And if Nate, if you got something on that, go ahead.
No, I think we're going to have a conversation here in the near future about downtown parking, because we've got some areas that we probably don't want to have 2-hour parking, want to allow people to park during the day. And we've got to develop some kind of pass system or something like that. And so I think that gets wrapped up in that conversation as far as, are people parking there who work downtown, then walking down the alley, and well. I can't say anything, Curb, I'll incriminate myself. But yeah, those kinds of sentiments need shared. I think we need to iron this out a little bit, because we're having some hurt feelings or hurt people or whatever on all sides. So we've got to try to do the best we can for as many people as possible.
As you can see, the monthly reports in your packet. One thing, and Judy will have to help me with the names.
1 second. This is Craig Cross. He's our deputy police chief. He was hired this past month. I apologize. I should have introduced him a long time ago, but we've both been in and out. But we're glad to have him on board, and he's done a great job starting out.
Come to find out, she didn't have no family members to check on her or anything. That's a friend called from out of town to go check on her. Water line in her bathroom, and she was packing water from her kitchen to her bathroom to flush it, and she hadn't been able to take a shower and bathe like that. Very, very nice elderly female. We made some calls and set it up where got two. Tyler and Gary Bailey went in. It was just a simple fix on this water line, but it was such a good feeling to help that. Yeah. It was the right thing to do, and got her help, so far as me, I mean, I've enjoyed being here. This is one of the prettiest downtowns around. I think so. And so far, I mean, Weston's having the problems as I've, reading through this minutes here where he was at the municipal league meeting. All these small towns got the same problems as Weston has, and just it seems like everybody's wanting to formulate a plan to best to combat, keep things moving forward. Yes, ma'am.
Next fire department.
I'll just add a couple of things to Chief Settle's notes here. The ladder truck is back in service. It was out of service for almost exactly 5 days. Just had to send the hydraulic cylinder out for repair. It's one of the 2 main cylinders on the ladder truck. It was inoperable without this. It was very heavy, so I'd like to thank the members and employees that were there to assist getting that thing off the side of the truck and then putting it back on. But it is back in service, and oddly enough, the timing was almost perfect because Chief of Buchanan called Saturday morning the day after and said they're having the same problem, so. Um, But in his notes, he says that both new engines are in our station now. I welcome you to come look at them. They're great pieces of engineering. They're pretty nice fire trucks. Now it's just a hard part of getting everything mounted on them. So that'll take a couple weeks, maybe a month, but we want them to be right because we're going to have them for a while. That's all I have.
Sure.
Where's the number of tickets?
I think that was the very last page.
I don't think so.
Crash reports, then citations, August 2023. Yes, ma'am.
That didn't include 9 parking tickets that were issued this month. For compatriots.
I was part of that. I had a feeling that was when it was courthouse workers and stuff.
Other reports in the packet there, if you have any questions, and a little later on in the business, I'm going to ask you to award 7 more demolitions this evening, so. And I just got word from the contractor, they're moving their equipment in tomorrow, and they're going to get started on more of them Thursday.
For 6, where you work with law enforcement on homeless issues. Is that in conjunction with, can't think of her name? From the homeless-
Jessica,
Yes.
we've handed out her card to a bunch of people. And in fact, sometimes when we're out there with them and they start, well, we tried to get a hold of her, tell you what we'll do. And I just dial her number right there. Okay, now you're talking to her. So she's hooked up with several. There's a couple that for sure that she's transferring up to Clarksburg. She's got them an apartment. She's lining them up jobs and that kind of stuff. So if we can get more success stories like that, it'd be great.
Thank you very much. Question for Marty? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marty. City attorney's report.
I think Monday, we're having one of those magical codification meetings. I think we picked 4:30 as the time.
Okay.
I think there might be a sanitary board that meeting too, I'll try to get us out of there by 5:30. What time is the sanitary board? 6?
4.
At 4?
4:30.
Oh,
4:30.
well,
One of you picked 6 o'clock.
we may have to,
I have another meeting at 6,
You have
but
a
you all
meeting?
can do it at 6 if you want.
Want to work it out.
we can try to figure out.
Okay.
Does 6 work for council?
I gotta be at both probably.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So let's try, when we do, we didn't pick 6 o'clock last time for some reason, but I can't remember. Just because we just wanted to get it over.
Yeah.
Get it out of the way. 6 o'clock, all right. Right, we'll keep the sanitary at 4:30.
You can do it like you want. I'll switch.
No,
my stuff
we'll
around.
keep sanitary at 4:30 and
It's not a big deal. I think.
too late, we've already changed it.
We're already set, 65, but
Don't you need to be at sanitary board though?
did you have anything else to report, Brian?
No.
No?
We'll talk about it.
Okay. City clerk, we have the business license report for the month of August. It's quite extensive too, I know.
We remember.
I was just noticed other than sign, I don't have opportunities. Yes, they will let us know anything. We'll have a brand open. Okay. Thank you. That's all. Okay, city managers report.
Okay, I'm going to piggyback. I think the mayor's got a report in there, the things she attended, and I looked down through the list and I was at every one of those things she was at. So if you want to know what I was doing in August, look at that report. But I was with the mayor. There's a couple hot topics that I'll just go down through. Cameras. We should be on the tower the next week or two to hang that hub point so that we can connect all the camera hardware. And then we've had to upgrade our internet connection in order to handle the new speeds. And so that's in process as well. So it's moving forward. It's just a month and a half, I think, is best case scenario of getting everything installed. Has been bought out, and now we're in league with the people who've bought them out. And so, I mean, they just absorbed their work, and I don't even know if we necessarily had a contract with them. We awarded them the work because they were already our IT provider and stuff of that nature. So they've absorbed that and they're pushing through it. But I know it's been a long time coming. Yeah. Right. Understood. I know there was a lot of red tape. Yep. And we're getting through there. Yep, they've got the equipment. And so I think as long as we can get the green lights, we can just get this stuff hung pretty quickly. That's the anticipation. Department of Highways, I'm going to jump to them real quick with the bridge project. I was asked, I followed up a couple weeks back about the lighting on the bridge because we hadn't heard anything back from them. And I wasn't given an official answer, but I think was intuited to me that the lighting would not happen now. And so I followed up and I haven't heard anything back, but I just wanted to prepare you all for that. And one of the issues, I guess, just to give you a little bit further background on that, is that the bridge was bid in a fashion where they were going to slip form I'm going to call them cattle guards, which is essentially the concrete walls. And so in order to modify any kind of base area with that, then the contractor couldn't slip form them anymore. And that was going to drive their cost up because then they'd be hand forming. And so what was relayed to me by the unofficial answer was that State Department of Highway said either we had to eat the cost, which was estimated to be over $100,000, or the project didn't happen. So nobody's ever officially asked us yay or nay on that, but I think my official answer to the 100,000 is no. But I've reached out to our lighting supplier and tried to find a way around it, but I haven't heard anything from Department of Highways either. I've emailed and I need to call at this point. So just give you an idea where that stands and the latest. Annexation, I just want to make mention that I've had numerous conversations with different folks out there, and I think those conversations are progressing, and hopefully we'll have something for you here in the future to discuss a little bit further. Municipal fees is something I've worked on this past month, but that's where we're going to talk about that a little bit later. We've had numerous conversations about the Halloween concept since the last meeting. Hearst Mania their organizer was in town. We've sat down with him, made some local connections for him. I think we're going to try to be associated with that in some form or fashion, at least support it. And the kayak float, we've scheduled that again for the same weekend to try to lend the city's efforts towards that. The street department, like Mike said, has been down at on Simpson's Run helping out with that drainage issue there, and just really appreciate their willingness to go down there and try to make things right. And I'm going to go back to the police department just real briefly. In this past month, I think we've really, I won't say we've turned over a new leaf because that's not the truth, but and not that they're bad guys or anything like that, but we've tried some different things. I'll say in the fact of with engaging the homeless population and just different people. And I think what we're finding out is that every one of these people has a different story. They have a different background. They have a different issue that they're working through. And so we've tried to help where we can. I think we've given a few free rides this past month out of town to places where they can find shelter and things of that nature. We've worked with Jessica, like Marty and them mentioned. And I think we've just been a little bit more vigilant you know, having Craig here has been very helpful just from a manpower perspective. And so during the daytime, him and Marty have been up on the hillsides at times and some of these dilapidated structures, chasing people out. And through that chasing out, had conversations where they haven't given them the slip, and been able to engage those folks. And so, you know, I'm sure it doesn't move the needle for anyone out there looking around, but those things do matter, I think, and those things have been appreciated from my standpoint. I think that we're helping people. We're not throwing those people on somebody else, making them somebody else's problem. And I hope over continued efforts that we'll see a difference and at least, you know, affect someone's life in a positive direction. And so we're trying to make some different resources. I think we've even been in one of our most famous downtown properties this past month because we had a complaint there of sanitary conditions, and I think it turned out well, right? When you guys inspected it, it wasn't as bad a situation as we thought. So that was good. And so we'll continue to try to do those things as an organization, I think, and hopefully make a dent in some of this stuff. But we've also had discussions about a loitering ordinance or a disturbing of the peace ordinance. And so I know Brian's got that on his list of many things to kind of research a little bit, and we'll see if we can add some tools to their tool belts to at least let's put some pressure on people and not be able to. I think one of the frustrating aspects is that it just seems like you can't do anything. And so if we can at least have some of those things where we can tell people to go home and leave things alone and things of that nature, maybe that affects things as well. So that's about all I have to add about any other thoughts on that stuff, guys. Okay.
I just working with Marty here this last month. He keeps the cards for Jessica. Because there's been times that Marty and more did cards. He does very well handing them out, getting them to people. So at least they're here. Right here, so she can go. And like he said, we'll call right now. I want to make more of that. So.
Mm-hmm. And I'll say this as an organization, we continue to get complaints at the city building, and I'm not complaining about the complaints. I think it's a good thing that people call us and they feel like they're getting some kind of response from us, and they're probably not always happy with our response time. But I know we've had some dilapidated buildings where people have said, you know, they've got weeds growing on them and it takes a couple of days for the contractors to mobilize, and they call back and say, well, nobody's doing anything. And then we get out there, and because we were getting out there the entire time, it just takes time. And so I do feel as an organization, we're moving in the right direction. We're in the right direction. We're being responsive, and we continue to see people have issues and find those issues met by a wonderful staff who's doing a great job of being responsive to people. And so I'm proud of those efforts by everybody.
A lot of issues, I'm getting a lot of complaints, needles down in yards, buildings during the daytime, and right around the streets. I mean,
Are we jumping up to old business?
we're jumping up to something that's important.
Yeah.
No, that's good. I think it's, I think we gotta kind of stick
Yeah.
with the agenda.
Yeah.
I'll be happy to discuss this.
Okay.
I'll save it for them.
I just thought I was part of it.
No,
Well, I mean, it came up in natural discussions.
Right.
And I think you could
Yeah.
roll with
Okay.
it a little bit.
I think we're okay.
We're kind of getting close to jumping up out of the order.
I'll move to accept off part.
Yes.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and second to select all department reports. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, under old business, ordinance 2023-15 to amend the configuration of the Weston City Tree Commission. This would be the second reading, so now I am looking for a motion to have the second reading of this ordinance by title.
I'll move to have the second reading of ordinance 23-15 to amend the configuration of Weston Tree Commission.
I'll second.
It's been moved and second. Any discussion? We'll have voting by roll call.
Councilwoman Sherry Rogers.
Yes.
Councilwoman Debbie Gump. Councilman Herb Curtis.
Motion carries. Ordinance 2023-15 to amend the configuration of the Weston City Tree Commission, second reading by title only.
Likewise, I'll entertain a motion to accept or reject the second reading of ordinance 2023-15. I'll move to accept the second reading of ordinance 2023.
I'll second.
It's been moved and second. Any discussion? Voting by roll call.
Councilwoman Sherry Rogers.
Yes.
Councilwoman Debbie Gump. Yes. Councilman Herb Curtis.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Next is ordinance 2023-16. City of Weston to acquire property at 210 North River Avenue. This would be the second reading. So is there a motion to have the second reading of ordinance 2023-16?
Hang on just a second for that one. I think he was supposed to, the owner was, before we had the second reading, the owner was supposed to get us a signed deed to it. Now, he has not yet. Now, that technically doesn't stop a vote from happening in case that deed would come in tomorrow, let's say. But I think during the first reading, I think we'd indicated that maybe sometime between the first reading and the second reading, we were going to get the deed from him, and he hadn't given it to us yet. He's out in Hawaii. So I don't know what I think table it until we get something from him.
I'll move the table.
Okay, it's been moved in second to table. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, cat policy and creation of animal control.
All right, this is a follow-up on our conversation last meeting, and so I guess after some deliberation and discussions, I prepared a job description for a part-time animal control officer in your packet and provide that to you. And my proposal is to fund that position through the existing budget, through the code enforcement side, which has a temporary line of like $10,000 for salaries, and their salaries, all the, the taxes and social security and everything, all like it's already been built into the budget. And then looking at Marty's line, there's also some materials and supplies that we felt, speaking with Marty, that we could cannibalize in the creation of this position. And just to give you a little bit of backstory why I'm targeting that is I think cities like Clarksburg, from my memory right, Princeton, different municipalities across the state have stuck this position, this kind of work inside the code enforcement operation. And I think that makes a lot of sense from us. And so this person would be supervised directly by the chief of code enforcement officer, which would be Marty in our case. So I think, speaking with the attorney, the position has probably been created in the past through ordinances and stuff like that. But I did want to make sure that this was the direction the council was willing to go down, and make sure you guys were okay with how we were tackling it. And I think my intention for the position is to see this be something hopefully that's temporary in nature, or at least part-time in nature, for the foreseeable future, to allow the trapping of feral cats and either their evaluation for future, as far as whether it's a fix and release to a proper place, or if they're diseased and they have to be addressed appropriately there. So my intention is to find someone within that realm, advertise the position, and try to recruit for that specialty. So I guess I'll stop there and say, is there any questions, and see what you all have to think about it.
So apologize.
Yeah.
You said we hired, and I'll talk about this. This part about who we hired.
We haven't hired anyone yet.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was waiting to kind of get your approval. I think at this point, the position's been created in the past. And my intention with that job description was to shoehorn it with assistant code enforcement that we created, I think 2 or 3 years ago, but also make this a person who takes on those animal control duties that are specified in our cat ordinances, where the city code speaks to an animal warden or someone of that nature. And so the intention, I think, is to focus this person on the cats, but also recruit for someone who's willing to take the property maintenance licensure through the state fire marshal. So when they're out there doing cat issues, if there's a health and hygiene issue from property maintenance standpoint, high grass, anything of that nature, that they can also provide support to the code enforcement arm of the city as well. So
The lady we spoke of, what the town will no longer.
no, I think so, but we're going to give it it's going to be open advertisement, just like all of
We
our
have to.
positions. But I think her credentials would be very strongly considered.
Would this be a position that would be reviewed quarterly? Similar?
My feeling is let's give it a year, or at least till the next budget session, and say, the next budget year, and say, let's see how it's done and see if it's something we want to continue. But from my estimates, looking at the salary or the numbers we have available in the current budget, we can fund the position till the next budget year, no issues there. And Yeah. yeah, and I think that being part-time, there's some flexibility there too, where we say, if you've put all your cat traps out and you haven't caught anything for a week, maybe there's something going on here seasonal, right? And we don't really need those issues addressed right now. But I think there's a lot of cats out there. I was at Arby's again, which we won't be down to Arby's, but there's just a lot of stray cats around. We were talking about this at the staff meeting 2 weeks ago, and my wife asked me to clean the grill before my family came, and I pulled the grill cover off, and there was 3 kittens underneath my grill cover on my porch. Yeah, they weren't my kittens, and they're just everywhere, and they're reproducing prolifically. Yep. They somehow weren't there when I got home. So
I think it's very important that this person, whomever we hire, knows that these animals will not be returned to the neighborhoods in which they're caught.
agreed. And we've had some preliminary discussions, I think, with folks out there, and we've seen some volunteer groups, it looks like, trying to address it in their own ways in town. But we've got people who are still feeding cats.
Right.
And we've had those discussions with them, and this person will take the lead in trying to have those relations with people and try to bring them to a point where they're working with us and not against us and that kind of thing.
We did create an ordinance.
We did, and I think this person will also get those authorities as well, being in code enforcement.
Where will the cats go? If they're not going to be returned where they came from, you have some cat
There are rescue groups.
center.
Well, there are rescue groups that are available out there. And actually, I've done some research. Nada's done some research on. They're willing to take some. Yes. I think that the ones who are healthy, I think we also have an issue with some very ill cats that may not be rehomable due to disease and poor health. They do. So we're going to do our best, Brenda.
If you have a volunteer traps feral cat,
Mhm.
and we have this person on board, will there be a contact available to them?
I think this position, if we go this route, is going to be the point of contact for all these issues within the city. They're going to be the city's animal control officer. Now, I think we're going to make a declaration. We're not doing dogs.
Right.
It's still going to be with the county, but this person's going to be the point of contact for all the cat issues.
Yeah, I just have the question of pets. How will you sort out pets
And I think as far as
in traps?
our current ordinance says that cats are to be tagged. And so if you're going to have a pet, this person is going to manage that program to make sure that
It's safe for cats to wear collars.
They do have breakaway collars. Also, I think that this is probably the easiest way is to announce in advance and let residents know where those cats are being trapped. And you have the option of keeping your pet indoors with a litter box or putting a breakaway collar. And if you don't feel comfortable with even a breakaway collar or don't want to run the risk of that pet losing its collar and getting trapped, then, with cats, you can leave them inside with a litter box.
I'm sorry, I just have one more comment. Since the wards abut each other, if Ward 1 is being cat trapped, any wards around it need to be equally made aware of that because people near the border may lose a pet
I think we need to be maybe specific as to streets, And if you have a cat and you know it travels, you know, that you might want to keep it in if
All about
your
ordinance, the
streets.
cats are not supposed to be outside.
That's
anyway,
true.
too.
That's
So,
true.
Yeah, I know. Difficult.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
Sure, sure.
right. Thank you.
I need to take action.
I'll move to approve the position.
There's a second. Been moved and second, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, discussion of municipal.
Okay.
What is this? Thank you. Brian?
All right. I was hoping to have a lot larger report to kind of share with you as a first stab at this municipal fee question, but I got sick early last week and didn't get to put as much attention to it as I'd hoped to. What I wanted to give you guys and kind of, we've had multiple discussions about municipal fees, and I don't want to spend a whole lot of time talking about it tonight, but since the last time we've talked, I've done 2 analysis on our roads and sidewalks. And so using the GIS, Geographical Information System, I've been able to draw a line for each street, estimate its width by measuring on the map, and kind of come up with a composite width. And what you're seeing is the result of some calculations from that. So on this first sheet here, it says needed paving, or on the first table you're seeing there. In the entire city, we've got about 23,700 tons of asphalt. That's a 2-inch thickness layer. Okay. And so what I quickly did some back of the napkin, or I think our prices this year are about $135 a ton, right? For placement. And so that works out to about $3.2 million that we would need to be able to overlay the entire city with asphalt. And then on this REP.years, I just picked a replacement interval. So to pave every street every 15 years, pave every street every 20 years, pave every street every 25 years. And so on the aggressive paving schedule, every 15 years, you need $213,000 a year in paving to be able to keep up with that schedule. You know, and 25 is probably too long. 20 is probably the best case scenario for you as far as being able to stretch your dollars, and you're looking at around $160,000 a year with those measurements. And that estimation doesn't include any kind of crack sealing or milling or anything, any kind of additional. That's just straight 2-inch overlays. Then I also broke out the alleys, and some alleys are gravel, some are paved, but I just consider them all as paved at this point to kind of give you another idea of what that would cost. So that's an additional $40,000, $30,000, or $24,000 to cover the alleys in the city. So, if you add $25,000 for contingency and milling, all that good stuff, you can see from 15 to 20, 25 years, you're needing a paving budget of $215,000 to $275,000 a year just to keep up with the streets you have. Okay. And these are city streets. These aren't I colored the ones that are maintained by the state a different color, so it doesn't include any of those or anything like that. So just wanted to throw that out there as some information for you. And then I did the same thing with sidewalks. I took the same map, the aerial photos we have. You can see the sidewalks on there pretty well. I drew a line. I did the calculations today, and in order to replace city sidewalks, and this does include sidewalks within the state right of way, which we've been, told that are our responsibility. So you're looking at another, 50 years is probably the best case scenario for a sidewalk, maybe a little bit longer, $155,000 a year in sidewalks. And so this is just my first stab at the municipal fee, but I want to include these kind of metrics in this report that I'm writing for you to consider when you're looking at it. And so all this is to say is I think, when we first talked about municipal fees, we've looked at how much the service would cost if we took our entire budget and just said, hey, we're going to cover that through fees. We haven't liked that number, and that's understandable. But I think as we move forward, when we try to adjust these fees or try to come up with some kind of arrangement for them, we should have something we're pointing to saying, you know,
This is what it costs.
this is what it costs and this is what you're getting for the money you're paying for, right?
Exactly.
So when
Mhm.
you know, a resident calls in and says, well, I've paid my $100 street fee for 10 years now. And you're like, well, sir, that doesn't even pay for a ton of asphalt at this point in time, right? I think these things need to be tied to some kind of metric or some kind of effort that we're trying to cover with that additional street fee. If we're not going to cover the entire service for the fees. So anyways, that's as far as I've gotten. I apologize. It's been a long time coming, but we're doing the same thing. We've started talking to Jimmy in the last week about getting our equipment for fire departments. That's another thing I think we've got to look at. I'll work with Mike in the next week to say, you know, we've got bobcats and skid steers and trucks and things like that. Those things all have a useful life to them. And we don't really have any kind of funding mechanism to say outside of our general taxes and the pot of money we have every year that's generated through that to say, you know, what is our replacement schedule? How are we going to meet those? And so I think that goes in this equation as well.
Law enforcement.
Well, yep. Police cruisers. We've also talked about there's some other equipment such as air packs and things of that nature that the fire department uses that have to be replaced on a regular schedule that aren't cheap that we should try to build in this as well. And that's going to give us some numbers. And I think at that point, I hope council will look at those and say, you know, at least pick some things and say, these are the things we want to cover through a fee that we're generating. And that plays in this whole annexation conversation, as you all know, that we've got to be able to communicate these things to people who may be interested in coming in and saying, that seems like a lot of money to come into the city. Well, these are paying for these things. And that's what you're getting for that money. So there's no other questions. I'll rest that discussion at this point. Go ahead.
We updated or created an ordinance that the city of Weston's responsible for all sidewalks and things.
Well, I think we haven't used them yet, but I think we're getting there. Yeah. And I think at some point we've got to make that decision. But I think if we say, hey, the city's responsible for sidewalks, we've got to be really well aware of what kind of liability we're throwing on ourselves there, right? Yeah. So I'm just using as examples, but I think as we look at the streets, stormwater drains, we've got a funding mechanism for those to a degree. Whether that's enough for too little or too much, I don't know at this point. But sidewalks are something that are wholly unfunded, you know, from our current auspices of how we look at them. And it's something, you know, I think when you look at the fee section of code, sidewalks are things that we could charge a fee for. So maybe it's a thing where you charge a $10 a year sidewalk fee and say that's what we're using to pay for sidewalks. Yeah. Yeah.
We'd be responsible for the sidewalk. That's a big part of the community.
Right. And from previous cities, you know, you sit there and say, well, we've got $50,000. That's what we've figured out we could tolerate from a taxing fee perspective a year. And so we've done this study and you realize you're not going to get your sidewalks rebuilt. You're on a 100-year replacement schedule at $50,000. And so when people call and say, my sidewalk's terrible, well, we'll get to you in the next 100 years. You know, or we can raise our fees, you know, and that's come to your council person, talk to them about raising your fees and see if we can get them up and, you know, those things. So those are good tools to have, I think, for people to understand the magnitude of problems and things of that nature and how things work. So.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, next update on the identified city goals.
Herb, I think you requested this discussion. I'll give you the first stab at her.
For this year. Yeah, I was thinking of this, probably a week or so ago, and just thought we maybe should keep an open line of communication where we're at, and we're working on this stuff. We had one meeting. The goals of ours, outside of a comprehensive plan, but, you know, some things I want to get done, and I just thought, even if we haven't got two things off the big list, then it'd be better on my communication and talk.
Yeah.
People make them up with different ideas or complete one of these things.
You did. Sorry, flipping through.
And a lot of it, as we went through this meeting, when I answered.
Cameras, you already gave us an update on that.
Yeah.
They're right here.
Well, I'll admit it's been one of my intentions to give you guys an Excel sheet as my city manager report to say, here's the things on our list, right? Plus more probably from each department. And this is the status of those projects. But it's just been overwhelming to be able to get to that point where I can get that to you. But we'll work on that. And I think that if we can get something to that nature where every month we can talk about it, you can see that, and if we can ask questions, but I don't want to make excuses for us, but we've been busy, but I do feel like we're getting to a point where we're starting to turn some corners here and get some things done. And we've got the right people in places and stuff of that nature. So we're well on our way, I think, to getting a lot of these things tackled, but there's a lot we're trying to juggle, as you can see on that list.
Oh,
Yeah.
that was 26 items. We're in some stage of completion on all of them.
That's what I've seen.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Well, according to Senator Manchin's office, we've been awarded an earmark for that project. But I've kind of pumped the brakes on all of our other efforts to sit there and say, let's make sure that whatever award we're getting from the congressional earmarks, that we can play all that together, make sure we're checking all the right boxes for everything. But I'll just say with our riverfront project, we're still trying to get the federal government to agree to the agreement. And so we've sent the forms needed. I've called today with Angela and left them another message, so, and not
That
throw
was
Angela under the bus.
sent in months ago.
Yeah, we've been back and forth with them. And so it's the federal government. They're here to help. Yeah, it is Washington. And so, yeah, I think it's going to be USDA is kind of my feeling. Yep. And that's, in another life, I'm working on another USDA project, and, everything is not, if you don't use your funds once you've got the agreement assigned, and that doesn't count towards any kind of match requirements. And we haven't heard whether we're going to have a match or non-match at this point. So I've been kind of hesitant to do much else until we can get that a little bit clarified. But I think we have more hope there than we've ever had at this point.
Other questions about those?
I'll have a downtown beautification update. Let's see. Is it September 7th? Yeah, at the Mexican restaurant in the back room. We're going to have a fall meeting about downtown decor for the upcoming Halloween season. And at noon at the coffee house that day, we're having a hubcap meeting, and there is a possibility of some hubcap money for our downtown decorations if the group so chooses to vote that way. So.
Yeah.
I just, to be honest with you, I think we need to wait on more.
Yeah, we've just been tied up with, we're on Simpson Run this week, and we've been working in the parking lot, but we have purchased the fence, at least some of it.
Fence is here.
Yes.
And I'm just a little hesitant to put it up here right yet, but as soon as we figure this out, then we'll go for it. Thanks.
Thank you for being here.
Have a good evening.
Thank you for coming. No.
Next discussion on backpackers, drug use, property damage.
Yeah. You're up for it.
Anyway, back in the discussion made on this. Just have several components about bills, you guys running there and right in the middle of town and streets, which I know law enforcement can't be everywhere.
Sure.
So these things will have to happen everywhere. I talk to people and all that. I was talking to someone a while back and said, I guess our county force is out, closest one is out.
Are we still Mountain Lakes, or has it changed? Do you know?
Still Mountain Lakes.
Are they out of Clarksburg, or I thought they were Braxton County for some reason, or Summersville?
There's guys, I know several of the guys on the task force are from several departments, but I think probably the federal side of it's probably out of the Clarksburg Federal Building, not out the Helmans Federal Building part of it. The
I know the conversation can go far when you get into.
Yeah, right.
Just curious if we keep in contact or if we've had any conversations. on that issue.
Did our aggressive push with policing with the vehicles, did that ever materialize?
No,
Okay. I don't know how much I can say out loud.
Good buddy on the task force.
Good.
But the problem is, they're just, every county wants them, you know what I mean? And it's, then not every agency, but they want somebody from every agency, you know what I mean? So that they can have it. But not every agency can provide them somebody, I mean, not.
Right. In the past, that's
every county
been,
needs it.
yeah, and in the past, that's been kind of, you get service if you provide someone to the task force. And right now, we're not providing anyone to the task force because we don't have the bodies to provide to the task force.
The county is.
Yeah, and I think that they are working with us to a degree, but that's been kind of the reflection that I've gotten when asked about it, was that we would get better responses or more increased activity from the task force if we were able to provide a body.
Just keep pumping them information, I mean, and hopefully that, eventually. They'll come and work in this, they'll come to this county and we'll work it.
Which I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I think we need to continue to encourage people to call. You know, it's we get a lot of calls, and I'm not being mean to anybody, but there'll be a day after the fact, or, you know, multiple hours after
Yep.
the fact. And you're like, well, you know, I'm being mean to people here, but it's like, you know, somebody was breaking into my house 3 weeks ago and you guys didn't do anything. What did you call? No, I didn't call. Well, you know, we don't know. You know,
Right.
and I think that's until we get more, a better response there. And so sometimes you hear dispatch, people blame dispatch that they don't get it to us. And yeah, but we need to work through that process. There's a proper process for everything. And we need to encourage people to say, you know, be vigilant. You see something going on, don't be afraid to call it in. I don't think we have any issues about running out to check on things or anything like that. So we just need to sit there and say, well, 2 hours ago, somebody was here doing drugs and now they're not here anymore.
Yeah.
We can't show up to chase ghosts at this point. And so
you have
we
that.
get a lot of that.
And then you have that, and then on the other side, there's hot points.
Yeah.
You know, and that's my reasoning for asking.
Yeah, and you get into a lot of the constitutional stuff, right, where somebody can be standing out there, you know, and if you don't see the right kind of drug, or if you can't see the drug and you don't know what's being traded, they could be trading peanut butter sandwiches, or they could be trading, you know, a bag full of meth.
Things, I mean, in my 15 years, things have changed on that aspect so much that you gotta worry about. That's what he's saying.
Yeah.
You know, I think one thing people don't understand too is when the drugs are in their system, they're going down the street like that, and they stop and have contact with them, they don't have no narcotics on them, there's nothing I can do.
Yeah.
Because I can't arrest them for possession in their bloodstream. Then on the other hand, I didn't realize, because I was a PRO in schools for the last 4 years, so I'm out of touch with a lot of from where I worked the road, okay? The jail overcrowding is such a big issue. The magistrates are informed, if it ain't a violent crime.
Yeah. We're getting a lot of personal reconnaissance bonds, right? We pick them up, we take them there, they're getting released.
It's gonna cost the city money. It's gonna cost, because you're not gonna get nothing, recuperate nothing in fines from these people. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Then they don't want them in jail because they're overcrowded. It's not a violent crime.
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword. You have that issue, and then on the other hand, you're trying to keep your public safe. And how do you do that?
Well, I encourage the public, if you feel threatened or you feel like there's a dangerous situation, give us a call.
Always
Yeah,
call.
yeah.
Always call. And that's the best way to combat it is patrolling. The officers having a presence and they don't know when you're gonna pop around the corner.
Sure.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's how you determine that best, because just start, you know, the days it's not anybody going in this neighborhood, it's 2 o'clock in the morning, don't belong here.
It's a challenge. And we've only got 6 officers when we're fully staffed, and one's in Guam right now. And so best case scenario, we've got 1, maybe 2 people on duty when there's some overlap. And so that person oftentimes is getting pulled in a lot of directions. And so they'll respond, but they can't be everywhere patrolling. They have their own reports and things of that nature. So it's why it's so important for people to call.
Yeah.
They've got to call, and we'll be able to drop what we're doing and get there, you know, depending on the emergency.
Well, we've heard from downtown businesses that it's impacting their business, and we can't, if they're not doing business,
Yeah.
we can't run, you know, so it's kind of a vicious
Right.
circle.
Right.
legality of being able to tell somebody.
Well, exactly. Excuse me, but if they're actually, if they're laying on, that's where I'm going with this. If they're laying on a business stoop and customers are trying to get in the door, or
Yeah.
it's a deterrent for customers to want to come downtown and through the door. Can we take a look at an ordinance, Brian? For loitering, or what would be the best route here I guess that's what I'm asking of you. What would be our best bet, do you think?
Well, when you get into this stuff about loitering, it's being in one place for an arbitrary amount of time, and suddenly it becomes wrong to be there because you've been there 4 minutes instead of 3 minutes.
Well, if they're passed out maybe on the steps, or
Over into a trespass situation or something similar to loitering, but not quite loitering. You start telling people you can't stand on a sidewalk or lay on a sidewalk. You're jumping over into this violation of First Amendment type stuff. These rights that you're allowed to move around and be where you can be, particularly in open and historically open forums like city sidewalks and city streets. It's a little different out the road because I think the city has an interest in the free flow of traffic. I think you can hit people more aggressively in situations like that. But when you start getting into, I call them the vagrancy rules and the loitering, you got to get really specific on what the actual offense is, other than, oh, you're carrying a backpack, oh, you're laying down on the sidewalk, oh, you didn't take a shower this month. Those kind of unwanted things that cities have tried to, I don't know if eliminate's the right word, but discourage. There's case law, Supreme Court case law that you just can't make, somebody can stand in the same spot all they want to all day long on the sidewalk. There's no violation, if you will. It may have been in 1950, but it's not that way. But yes, but I mean, to answer your question, yes, I think we could try to, I want to use a legal term here, narrowly tailor an ordinance to address the situation outside of, I mean, when you start saying things like you can't be out on the street after 2 a.m. or you can't be out on the street after whatever time, you start getting to be overbroad, meaning your rule does capture the people you don't want to be on the street, but at the same time, it captures people that are out there with legit reasons. So it's overbroad.
taking their dog out.
Yeah.
So there are things that we can do
Maybe.
to provide some useful tools to our law enforcement. Thank you.
Can I ask a question? Can we not go back to enforcing the bicycle rules? And we do have them.
As far as them being like a motor vehicle and they need to make.
Yeah.
I think so.
I just I was going home on Main Street. I live towards Kitsonville and met a bicycle going the wrong way. And
I've said something to a couple of them.
Yeah.
Got to obey the law.
Sure.
I've said something to a couple of them, those say, then stay off the sidewalk. They should be in the road. They got to obey the laws, just like.
Right.
Stop signs, red lights, everything.
Instead, we can turn them there enough that I think we might aggravate enough.
Yeah.
Over 50 cc's. Yes, that's how it used to be. I had to refresh myself on that code. Under 50 cc, I think it's supposed to be on the road at all. Oh, yeah, and it was governed, used to be governed by cc, over 50 cc.
Hey, are we ready to move forward to Lucky Step?
thank you.
I'll just add one thing.
Sure.
Just to wrap it up. I know several of us attend the neighborhood watch. They're constantly telling people to call. We need to express enough.
Yeah.
And you can see by the report, I mean, those days like, we're slammed, and naturally, some of those things require reports. And It's just, that's just like a police. You gotta sit down there, my reports, this person, what their motor vehicle accident report done, and this person got something stolen, what the awards for that guy done. It's just a balance.
Stuff.
But absolutely call. Never do not call. I hear people say, well, I'll call the non-emergency line for this.
Oh, my.
Call 911. That's what it's for. Oh, I didn't think that's what it's for. Call 911. So they can dispatch it to us. It pops up on our screen and our computer. Yeah.
We have an application for a parade for Lucky Stiff's last ride on September 23rd. At 6 p.m. So I entertain a motion to approve that request. I'll move to approve the Lucky Stiff's last ride parade. Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And council is invited to participate in that parade as well as the wake at Pala. So you know. Nate provided information in the packet about the Westport Conservation District annual banquet on Tuesday, September 26th at 5:30 p.m. Are you going, Nate?
I hadn't got that far, but I'll struggle to be there. But
Gene and I went last year. It was the Doddridge County. It was very nice.
where's that this year? I didn't even look at it.
Vandalia.
Vandalia. Okay, I might be able to make that one. But if someone from council would like to go, please do.
I'll follow up with you on that.
All right, sounds good.
Okay, and next we have.
Oh, Steve's not here.
He's
It's volunteering.
We have appointed these people to the Weston Housing Authority Board, but we needed to specify the terms. So for the first one, I will ask you to take action on the appointment of Joyce Lamb from January 2023 to September 2026.
I'll move to approve.
For a second. It's been moved in second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The next one is Robert King for the unexpired term of Mary Neely. That term is January 2023 to September 2024.
I'll move to approve.
It's been moved in second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. That should get us in good order with that, I think. We have them all. All right. Next, we have ordinance 2023-17. An ordinance for West 7th Street parking one way. This would be the first reading, and Mike passed out information sheet prior to the meeting about that.
Yep, took out, speak to you a little bit about that. It says one way head for the crowd out there. You got that? Yeah, that direction. Okay, just want to make sure you got it. Jimmy contacted me and we got a lot of problems on that street. We're parking on both sides. And if you look over on the left-hand side in red, it's 23 feet wide. That goes into 276 inches. You take the fire truck out of there of 110, that leaves you 180 for two cars. That's minus 14 inches. So the fire truck can't get in there if you park on both sides. What we're asking, if we could make the one way and then the whole 7th Street be parking on the right hand side, heading the same direction. The one way. If you look at the people on 134, I'm sorry, 110 to 134 on that right side. If you look in the red, it says we can park 14 cars on there. people on 131 and 109, everyone with the X's has parking in the back, and they are utilizing that. 117 has no parking in the back, so that person will be able to park on the right hand side. If you look at 131, that's Mr. Pinkney lives there. He parks up on Pratt Street. 203 parks on Pratt Street. 204 parks on Pratt Street. All that down through there, we would put parking on the right hand side. 217, 215, and 211 have parking in the back, and that is where they park. So going back down to 110 to 134, we park 14 cars on that side. But I think that'll handle all the parking on there.
Is there questions for Mike on that? I'll ask council to take action to have the first reading of this ordinance by title only.
And I think just to kind of give you a little bit, we've spoken with most people down there, right? But we'll put a door hanger down there to let people know that this has been read a first time. And so if they have any kind of opposition or comment on it, they're more than welcome to come to our next regular meeting to voice that before it's read a second time, in case we've missed anybody. I had someone message me on Facebook today asking questions about it and wasn't sure if they were for or against it. And I invited them to the meeting to come speak about it. And I said, no, I'm just going to sell my parking space for $350 a month down at my house now. So that's all they want to know. But we will have that open forum as our past practice has been.
And I need to go to the other part. The other part that blue. If you park the cars on the right hand side, that'll let Jimmy get his fire truck through there, and you still have 76 inches of room to get a fire truck in and the maneuver. All right, Debbie, that is the rule. But I
It's
think
in Debbie's. I thought it was hers.
it's probably very confusing. But I think it's a safety issue, but it's up to you all.
Is it okay with you, Deb?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
these people's houses are on fire, they want that.
They- I know.
It's a give take situation.
Sure.
All right, so I will move to have the first reading for ordinance 2317, an ordinance of the city of Weston prohibiting parking on portions of West Side Street. My title. There's a second. It's been moved and second. Any discussion? We'll have voting by roll call.
Councilwoman Sherry Rogers.
Yeah.
Councilwoman Debbie Gump. Councilman Herb Curtis.
Motion carries.
Ordinance 2023-17, an ordinance of the city of Weston prohibiting parking on portions of West 7th Street. First reading by title only.
And now a motion to accept or reject the first reading of ordinance 2023-17. And move to accept. Second,
I'll second.
okay, it's been moved in second. Discussion. Voting again by roll call.
Councilwoman Sherry Rogers.
Yes.
Councilwoman Debbie Gump.
Yeah.
Councilman Herb Curtis.
Motion carries. Next, ordinance 2023-18. Ordinance creation of 15 miles per hour speed limit on Lynn Avenue. This would be the first reading.
Move to approve the first reading of the ordinance 2023-18 by title only.
It's been moved and seconded. Favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Ordinance 2023-18, ordinance of the city of Weston creating 15-mile-per-hour speed limit on Lynn Avenue, first reading by title only.
Well, I'll entertain a motion to accept or reject the ordinance.
I'll move to accept.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Voting by roll call.
Councilwoman Sherry Rogers.
Yes.
Councilwoman Debbie Gump. Councilman Herb Curtis.
Motion carries. Next, awarding of demolition bids for 303 South Main, 78 Henry Street, 301 Wright Street, 65 Allen Street, 67 Allen Street, 370 Broad Street, and 844 Terrace Avenue.
I'm going to pass the baton to Marty. He's got a little bit of an explanation, but I'm full on board with the recommendation.
If you look in the center of the big comparison sheet that I provided.
Yes.
Thank you. If you look in the center of that sheet, starting with 301 Wright Street, I would recommend giving 301 Wright Street, 65 Allen and 67 Allen to 24/7 Environmental. And the two albums really need to go together because one's actually leaning on the other at this point. They're on the same parcel of land. So it makes sense to have the same contractor do both. And then I would recommend the other four going to Astor Oilfield. They were the low bidder on the rest of them.
What recommendation did you have, Marty?
Those again, please.
I'm sorry.
Okay, 303 South Main, I would recommend Astor. 78 Henry, Astor. 301 Wright is 24/7.
That's what I didn't get.
Me either.
67 Alum and 65 Alum is 24/7 Environmental. And then the last two, 370 Broad and 844 Terrace Astor.
And those were all low bid except for the Alum Ave, and that was because they're leaning up against each other. And so we went with the combined low bid for both properties, which was 24/7. Am I right there, Marty?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any questions about the recommendations on these demolition bids? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to accept the bids as the awarding of bids as presented by Marty Lewis. And those will be stipulated.
Do you want that all in one motion?
I think you can just state the address, who got it, what the bid amount is.
Oh, the bid amount. Oh, it's here, right? I'll move to approve 303 South Main Avenue to Astor Oilfield for 6,000. 78 Henry Street to Astor Oilfield for 7,000. 301 Wright Street to 24/7 for 7,200. 65 Alum Avenue to 24/7 Environmental for the amount of $5,529.80. 67 Alum Street to 24/7 Environmental for 6,000. 270 Broad Street to Astor Oilfield for 6,000, and 844 Terrace Avenue to Astor Oilfield for $6,500.
There's a second to that motion. It's been moved in second. Any discussion? We'll have voting by roll call.
Councilwoman Sherry Rogers.
Yes.
Councilwoman Debbie Gump. Councilman Herb Curtis.
Okay, motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Christmas parade theme. I think that's supposed to be walking in a winter.
I think it is. Yeah, walking in a winter wonderland. Some year I'd like to suggest a Nightmare Before Christmas.
Council like to take action on the feeling for the Christmas break.
Go ahead, Herb.
You're raising the motion to approve that.
Oh, yes.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved in second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And next, Sherry has graciously applied for the 2024 Fairs and Festivals grant for the Chocolate Festival, and the amount of that grant will be $1,188. And your requesting action is
I am.
to accept the grant award.
To accept the letter that I send at this time of year, yes. It's to accept the letter of acceptance, to submit the letter of acceptance. And Brian, I think I have to recuse myself, don't I?
Have to as well.
Oh, yeah, she's on the
Because I work
board.
the festival. Do I have to recluse myself for that?
I'll stop. He's like, okay, what's your role?
My role is I just apply for the grant. I'm not on the board. I've just applied for the grant for him for years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Debbie's not.
I'm
I
okay.
assist with the festival.
Yes.
What do
But-
you do?
I do all the chocolate, stage all the chocolate.
Are you on the board?
I am not on the board. I do not earn any money.
Earn any, financial gain?
I get no, it's all
You gotta
volunteer.
give all your money back that you get from glass.
I did win the basket one year.
I don't think you're sick and you are, just to be safe.
Am I okay? I just didn't want to, I mean,
And
okay.
you're not related to anybody. or-
I'm not related. There's not too many Gumps here.
I'll
5.
find the grant.
There's 5 Gumps here.
I think you're fine.
Councilman
Just to be
Curtis,
safe,
would you
just
like to
step
make
out.
a motion to accept the grant award
Wait.
in the amount of?
No, wait, we better get them out of here, better get them out. Better get them all out of here.
He signs the grant, right? I signed the grant.
Should you go just to be safe?
No.
I get,
All right.
Would you like to make that motion?
Yeah.
To accept the grant award?
Yes, I'll move to accept the 2024 Fairs and Festivals grant for a chocolate festival with an amount of $1,188.
oh, wait a minute, I am on the committee. The festival committees, I make a
You're
difference.
not on the.
See what?
I'm not on board. Okay,
see
I
what
second, I
we
second.
created
Okay.
there.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we're good. Should we tell Sherry we're done?
Let's leave her out there.
Bring her in after a report.
Okay, next reports of city council, and I only have.
Yes, that'd be great.
You got my written report of all the meetings attended for the month of August. As Sherry mentioned, there's a meeting, it's a town meeting to talk about all things Halloween. And to talk about the updates with the Hubcat community. And city manager's update, and that's going to be September the 7th at 6:30 p.m. at the Mexican restaurant in the back room. And chips and salsa are available free, as well as non-alcoholic beverages that you can buy dinner on your own. Also that day at 12 noon is the Hubcat meeting at the coffee house, and lunch will be provided then. Also, there is a Brownfields conference this month, the 12th and the 13th of June, and it's Brownfields / Main Street. And as we hope to apply to be an on-track community, I'll be attending that conference. That's all I have. Sherry?
I'm going to keep it brief and encourage the public to attend our meeting, talk about all things Halloween, talk about beautification, and also to attend the September 23rd event at the Asylum for the Lucky Stuff parade and also the I think it's during Hearstmania, which if you didn't have the opportunity to do that last year, it was pretty interesting to walk through there. Last thing, I would like to thank all of our staff. I know that we work really hard every day. And I think I want to share the compliments that I have received from the public on each and every department and say thank you and I appreciate you. That's all I have.
As well, would like to thank our staff and all the hard work they do. I did get a lot of compliments. My aunt has been at Stonewall for the past week and a lot of compliments and a lot of suggestions that you always get as well. And I appreciate the work that you've done with our transient population. We do have, I know, a few more issues where that is concerned. I know there's a lot of littering, especially around the churches in town. They like to leave their litter and other devices around there. I would also, there's a speeding issue, especially where the roads are now paved. There's a lot of speeding.
The police force and telling that. I also want to say that homecoming is at the end of the month in September, so I encourage all of our alumni to come out and support that. And I know, Mr. Stansberry, we had talked about one time maybe putting a banner across the street. And I think that would be really nice to see. Maybe, you know, something, so right, so it could be used, I think.
Is it gonna be city provided?
That's, thought we had talked about that a couple years back. And I think that might be. But I thought it'd be nice, just make it to where it can be reused every year. Yeah, good idea. Don't put it here. Something another community reach to support our schools and the community as well.
Remind me, Debbie.
Well, you remind me to remind you. So did Judy. Other than that.
I'd like to thank the staff as well for all their hard work, law enforcement for responding to several issues we've had. And I'd like to congratulate the fire department on the 2 new engines. Everything's been great.
Okay, is there a second? All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you all. Thank you.